It's Power Hour LSU.
PHL, extra little bit of swag, an extra little bit of taste.
Yeah. Man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field.
They wanted to put Jay Johnson down and out. They were calling him Ed Orgeron. They were saying he's a one-trick pony. But the young man that came over from Arizona and made College World Series over there said, listen, Tiger Nation, we are going to make the postseason, and we are going to shock the college baseball world, taking 2 of 3 versus Texas A&M. We'll talk about that. They actually had a 3-0 lead, but they blew that. That's okay. I know a lot of us have hot takes about Thatcher Hurd and all of that, but I am not the baseball guy, even though I do cheer for the team and watch them when I am able to. I had to push the live stream back. Internet has been so in and out. We had some rough weather earlier in the day, so I am really sorry about that. I wanted to make sure the connection was good and smooth. And look, I'm going to be as honest as I possibly can. Had a big career moment. My first DJ set in front of 5,000 people yesterday. I wasn't the headliner. I was just the opening background kind of guy for Sammy Kershaw. It was a lot of fun. So shout out to the Armadillo Festival. I really appreciate that. But yeah, the Armadillo Festival. That's where Steve Aoki, David Guetta, Manny Fresh, they won in that festival, but they're not like me. But I wanted to start off positively because it's always tough to start a show talking about something that is not rosy for LSU. And it's something that we addressed over the past couple of years when it comes to the LSU secondary. The LSU secondary has just not really been where it needed to be. Okay. It's been tough. It's been really, really, really tough. There's been a lot of recruits that just have not worked out. I saw something absolutely positively crazy when it comes to the LSU secondary today. This was a clip sent to me from an NFL source. And it was just public on Twitter. This wasn't like some background information. I just didn't see it. Jordan Tolles has a shot to make the Ravens. I'm serious. He went to Morgan State and balled out to where John Harbaugh pointed him out in a press conference. So we have not only had elite recruits come in and just not work out in the secondary. They have ended up working out, albeit at lower levels, but they're in NFL camps. They obviously have some talent. Okay? It's a strange thing because LSU has missed and seen so many players on the defensive side of the football not live up to their billing. And we have said this for so long about the secondary. We just kind of took it for granted that we always had DBs there. That when Patrick Peterson left the very next season, LSU still fielded one of the best defensive back groups of all time. So LSU lost one of the best college football corners of all time and still had an all-time great secondary, still had a Thorpe Award winner. And for so long, up until 2020, and even then we still had Derek Stingley and a few other good ones around, we just kind of took it for granted. And last year, our secondary was the worst secondary we've ever had. Yeah, by far. There's not anyone that's close to that. And now we're in the same position as defensive line. For so long, you would lose a great DT, but then another one was in the wings. Oh, okay, you lose Glenn Dorsey, but then it's the Drake Nevis era. You lose Drake Nevis, and then it's the Minnie Logan era and the Michael Brockers era. And then when they leave, it's the Devon Godchow era and the Christian Lakator era. And while all those guys aren't elite guys, we had a big debate on our last live stream, but we didn't have, these guys are really elite. And I would agree with you. No, not all those guys I just named were elite. But every single one of those guys would be the best defensive tackle in our room by far. But I'm here to tell you right now that some of the LSU players are tired of hearing the defensive tackle chatter. I saw an LSU player, I don't remember who, tweet out earlier today, hey, Preston Hickey, watch out. And I'll tell you this, there are people in that building that have, well, one, Slade Roy, who was on our channel before, said Preston Hickey is one of the best teammates and one of the funniest guys he's ever been around. And he even said he was a good football player. You can go back and listen to the interview. Maybe Preston Hickey can play. Transfer from Oklahoma State. I believe he did some good things in the spring game. Maybe he could play and we don't know. Maybe he could play. I mean, we had one miracle walk-on story in Josh Williams. Maybe there can be someone else that could step in like Josh Williams, and that'd be Preston Hickey. Maybe it can be. But the truth of the matter is we have publicly let it be known we need transfer portal defensive tackles. Publicly taking them to the supper club. Publicly put it out there that we need this position to be filled with talent, and we have struck out. That doesn't mean we're still not going to strike. It doesn't mean we're not going to strike gold here soon, because I do think Aiden Huntington, a transfer from ULM, has got some ability. I don't know if he is a pure DT. He's kind of a 260, 270. If you want to go 280 here, I can roll with that. He's kind of a tweener. Not really a space eater, but he's a bender, and he can, get after the quarterback some. Aiden Huntington, 8.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 28 solo tackles. But he has mostly been just a 1-year big-time player at ULM in 2023 on a team that wasn't really that great. So I like him, and I want him to be a part of our room. We have got to find ways to get defensive tackles here at LSU. So you see the poll question. You see it. Are you concerned about the defensive tackle recruiting? 23% of you already say yes, panic level high. 55% of you kind of, my misses are piling up. I actually screwed up the order here. Nah, we are fine. Should have actually been on the whatever. And then 6% is a true panic option. It will cost us 2 or more games. I don't think it'll cost us 2 or more games. Okay. But I do think it's an issue. I do. Do I think that one player is going to surprise us? Yes. That's just simple logic. One player is going to shock us. All right. There's one player in that room that's got that dog in them. That's got it in them. And they're tired of hearing people like me. They're tired of hearing people like Blake. They're tired of hearing all the media write articles about this nonstop. And they got that dog in them, and they're going to say, look, Carter, I'm sick and tired of it. I'm going to prove you wrong. Because what I can say, if there is LSU defensive tackles watching this, coming from a washed-up DT myself, high school one, not a great one. If you want to use me as motivation, do it. If you want me to be the hater, I will be the hater or the doubter. Even though I always cheer for every single LSU defensive tackle, every single LSU player. Okay? I cheer for every single LSU player that puts on the jersey. Bottom line. If you want to use me as motivation, please do. Please do. I don't mind being that person. Okay? And I know I'm not the only one saying this. So, this is what I would say next. All right? And it's a big thing. All right? It's about to get dirty in here. You know it's a big deal when Doug is in here. Good to have you back. Bullfrog, Cole, Pegasus, Big Al, TOV, Chance, BT, Tony the Tiger, Epic Shorty, Pick Six, Blaine, the whole crew's here. Well, not the whole crew. We have to push it back just a little bit, but it's all good. That's why we're all here, man. Beach volleyball did make it to the Final Four. Shout out to that. Shout out to Taylor Pleasance. Kind of sort of become one of my favorite athletes, her and Haley Bryant. They have a full open invitation to jump on PHL anytime. And that goes for any LSU athlete that wants to be on this channel. You have an invite at any time to be on our channel. I'm serious. Any active LSU athlete that wants to be on our channel, you could be the backup tennis player. I don't care. I used to go to tennis matches all the time. I've got a crazy tennis story that I don't know if I could share because I don't want to get anyone. I've actually shared it before. I'll share it one day yet again. But any LSU player, because I know I'm kind of the football guy, and I mostly focus just on football, but I want to highlight all sports. We've seen ridiculous growth in women's sports over the past year, in particular at LSU, past years. So there you go. But please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and as always, first super chatter, we go straight to you. Now, first $20 super chatter gets an autographed LSU card in the mail from yours truly. I know Bo Davis has taken a lot of heat. He has taken a lot. And this has been the number one question that I've gotten. Carter, why would we pay a defensive tackle coach $1.25 million a year and we not be able to land transfer portal defensive tackles? Why would we do that? Why would we not reallocate our resources? Well, I will tell you this, all right? With NIL stuff, it is hard to confirm if any number is true. But it is, we can make assumptions, fair assumptions, one that you have to connect the dots, that they went to really high bidders. Philip Blitty, Simeon Barrow went to Miami, Dominic Williams went to Oklahoma, and Blitty went to Auburn. Okay. But what I can also tell you is, while all three of those guys were good players, and I actually did like Blitty a lot, and I've shared that Philip actually reached out to me, and look, the transfer portal process is crazy, absolutely crazy. Okay. And look, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. I cannot confirm or deny, once again, if they got offered any amount of money. But what they are making for their talent level is a lot. It is a lot of money. To the point where you do have to wonder, is it worth the dollar amount to get them in if they really aren't difference makers? And I know what a lot of you are going to say. Well, we need them here. We don't have a whole lot in our room. And I would agree with you. But this is basic supply and demand. Because of the SEC rule that DTs can't go, or just anybody can't go from one SEC school to another, these young men have full reign, if they're out of the SEC, to go to these schools that have huge pocketbooks. And I know, obviously, Barrow went to Miami, and it doesn't really count as the SEC, but he still went to a big brand. He went from Michigan State to Miami, which is a step up. Well, not so much anymore, but still. I will assure you this. I don't think the blame needs to go to Bo Davis at all. I don't know Bo. Obviously, some people that are really close to him watch his channel. I'm not just saying this just to appease him. I'm telling you, he just got here. And I did not think when he came here that he believed that all the DTs were going to go to the NFL. And all three of them did. Okay. there was some belief that Wingo would come back, and there was a good bit of belief that Mason Smith was going to come back. And obviously, Mason made a really good choice to go to the NFL draft because, well, he was a pretty high pick in the second round. So, look, I am not overly concerned about the quote-unquote bidding. I'm just not. I'm more concerned about what I know. And what I know, based on what I could see, is LSU needs more bodies. And this is even the case if you do think Ahmad Bro, who is a true freshman, who's bulking up. I like Ahmad. He jumped on our channel. The dude has a ton of energy and plays for a big purpose. All right. Even if you believe that one of those guys can step up, even if you think Dominic McKinley could be Devon Godchow as a true freshman, even if you think those things, you are still incredibly thin at defensive tackle. You just are. And the problem with that, and this is the case in any sport. All right, a lot of you are LSU baseball fans. If you've watched a good bit of LSU baseball, you know a big reason why this team has not really been that good this year. And I'm not KP Omaha on Twitter. I'm not Kyle Peterson. All right, so you're not going to get a super analytical elite baseball broadcast. I'm not Ben McDonald. I do not have the flat top buzz cut that he rocks. I still think that haircut is like the most elite haircut if you can rock it. Any type of flat top. It's Big McDonald, Urkel, Patrick Ewing. Those are the top three. Okay. But you know in baseball, you got to have a strong middle. Right? You got to have a strong middle defensively in baseball. Obviously, you need an elite pitcher. You got to have a great defensive catcher. You've got to have a great defensive shortstop. You got to have a great defensive second baseman. Got to have a great defensive center fielder. If you don't have those things, or if you have 3 of those 4 things, you're just not where you need to be.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
It's pretty iconic. Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick just took a shot together on stage.
Oh, cool.
For the rose.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll get back to this.
Okay, thanks, bye.
You gotta have a strong middle. You just do. And this is my issue. I'm not just solely worried about the LSU defensive tackle room. It's not just that. All right. What I'm concerned about is the potential ripple effect it can have on others on the team, right? So LSU had some defensive issues at shortstop earlier in the season. That's just the position. That's the hardest position. A lot of people look up to that shortstop position. LSU has always had good defensive shortstops, right? They had Thompson last year. They had Nola. And, back, obviously, Nola was way back when. But you guys get the point. You've got to have good defensive shortstops, Alex Bregman, so on and so on. And if that position's not working, it just ripples, right? It's just one of those things. And I feel the same thing could happen here. Because the LSU linebacker duo is not where it needs to be either. Okay? You have Harold Perkins, who is relearning the position. And you have Greg Penn, who is up and down. And I do think both of them could be starting level SEC linebackers. I think Whit Weeks for sure can. Whit Weeks might be the best of all 3 of them as just an off-ball linebacker. Perks, probably the best playmaker, and Greg Penn's most experienced. But as many of you know, okay, Ray Lewis is not Ray Lewis if he didn't have Tony Siragusa. All those great Patriot linebackers wouldn't be what they were without Ted Washington and Vince Wilfork. Patrick Queen wouldn't be who he was without Rashard Lawrence, Tyler Shelvin, Glenn Logan, and those guys. So the issue is I'm concerned about the ripple effect. Okay, if you don't have great DT play, it affects your linebackers heavily. And we have two linebackers that, while they did play a lot and they were on the field together a lot last year, so they should have some chemistry, they weren't necessarily on the field at the same time playing this new defense, both being the off-ball linebackers. So you worry about that. You do. Now, that's my concern because it's not a sure thing. Now, if we were returning, let's use Patrick Queen again. If we were returning Patrick Queen and Jacob Phillips, or if you had Devin White right there, you'd feel a little bit better about that. But you don't. Now, we're also, and I'll tell you this, Blake Baker compared to Matt House, by default, we've already seen Blake Baker work his magic with Damon Clark. Blake Baker is going to have our off-ball linebackers playing better next year anyway. But it is going to be new. And then, of course, if the second level of your defense up the middle is struggling because of the first level of the defense, what's going to happen to the third level of your defense? And this gets to me, the single most underrated statistic in all of pro football. And it is so underrated. All right. We say hi to our first super chat. What's up, Grant? Peep it in for a second. I hope all is well. It's good to see you. Thanks for the text earlier. It was a great joke. Appreciate your friendship. You know, I think of a lot of the best athletes of all time. Okay. You know what a lot of the best athletes do that are not talked about enough? And it is so important, mostly in football, is they are so good at avoiding the disastrous mistake. Okay? They're so good at it. Like, one of the best athletes in any sport that I've ever seen at this is Joe Burrow. Okay, I don't know wax poetic about Joe Burrow, who doesn't? But the single most impressive thing that this dude did was he avoided negative plays. Like, go back and watch a Clemson game and don't watch a Jamar Chase catches. Don't watch any of that. Watch how many sacks he avoided in the first half of games. Just a little hop, skips, and jumps up into the pocket. And instead of it being a 6-yard sack, it would just be a 2-yard sack. Or he'd be getting out of trouble and running for 10 yards here. He did that a lot in the Clemson game. Did that a lot in the Georgia game. And what you see is like a 3 or 4 yard gain is more so a 10-yard gain, because instead of it being a 6-yard loss, it's a 4-yard gain. They do such a good job of avoiding the disastrous mistake. One thing I'm concerned about with this LSU defense is the touchdown saving tackle ability. All right. So let's take the spring game, for example. Caleb Jackson had an amazing touchdown in the spring game. Mason Taylor had an amazing second-level block on Harold Perkins. It was an absolutely beautiful play. But our safeties did not do a good job of making the touchdown-saving tackle. Okay? I am worried about that. Because the guy that we had at safety last year also struggled with the touchdown-saving tackles, and that was Sage Ryan. He had an opportunity. I think a lot of you remember this play versus Texas A&M. Max Wright, a tight end who runs a 5.6 flat, burned Omar Spates, and Sage Ryan had a chance to bring him down inside the 5-yard line. He wasn't able to do it. He had an opportunity to tackle Caleb Jackson in the spring game, wasn't able to do it. We've got to make sure we avoid the disastrous error. Happened in the game versus Wisconsin. Major Burns took a bad angle, untouched, basically 30-yard touchdown. We have got to convert and force teams to convert in the red zone next year. Okay? But what did we just talk about? It's the ripple effect. If you have better defensive tackle play to clog up those lanes, you don't have as many free running backs going to the second level. And if your DTs are doing a better job clogging up the lanes, you don't have as many offensive linemen getting to the second level, to a linebacker core that is working together for the first time. And then if those guys aren't getting blocked cleanly, it makes it harder for the running back to have a clean shot to the third level of the defense, where we have struggled to make touchdown-saving tackles in the run game. So you see why this is something that I have harped on. And I know that you come here because you want positive LSU football analysis mixed with objectivity and hard analysis at the same time. And that's the best I can give you. But when I tell you that it's not just any individual defensive tackle, it's a ripple, right? Do your job. They're doing the Brady roast tonight. My wife's been watching it, and it's been choppy. I mean, with internet issues all day today, but that's not here nor there. I'm pissed off because I'm working on something for the SEC channel, but working on for so freaking long, and I can't upload it. But that's not here nor there. We've got to be able to do your job. That's what Bill Belichick always says, do your job. And I'm worried about that. I am. I'm very worried about that. Oh, yes, that long run. And who made the touchdown-saving tackle was Harold Perkins. I appreciate Perk hustling on that play. Okay? So once again, thanks to our first super chatter of the evening. We also say hi to Eric White Jr. Welcome to the channel. I think I've seen you before. Do you think we need to run 3-3-5 with Weeks, Perk, and Penn to solve the defensive tackle problem? Yeah, so this is actually a defense that's run primarily in high school. So a lot of high school teams do this. They run this 3-3 stack, and they run unfreaking believably light boxes. And part of why they're able to get away with it is because the offensive linemen are so tiny. So like I mentioned a little earlier, you know, big moment for me. I got to DJ a pretty big show last night. Just a background DJ, not anything crazy. But there was a high school football coach. I spoke to him for 20 minutes. And I was like, man, dude, it just seems like every high school team runs this 3-3-5 stack now. And he said, yeah, the offensive linemen just aren't as big. You know, you're able to clog up lanes a little bit easier in the run game. And, you know, a lot of high school coaches just don't want to give up deep shots. So they just play too high or just cover three and just give light boxes and force teams to run on them over and over and over again. So why not we try to do that? You know, run 3-3-5 stack. And to be honest, Blake Baker actually did that last year versus Tennessee, and it worked. But part of why it worked, Eric, is because his defensive line whipped their offensive line. They had some really good plays in that game. And I've already done a film study on that game if you want to go to the SEC channel. And I did it at the time not knowing Blake Baker was going to be our defense coordinator. And even though I know people close to Blake, I've never met Blake personally either. I did that analysis just like, wow, what Blake Baker did. And I was actually doing the analysis from a Tennessee perspective because I do a Tennessee video every week during the year. I was like, wow, I've never seen a DC do this versus Tennessee's offense. So Blake does a really good job mixing and matching, not having the same defensive formation as everyone else, and looking at things innovatively. So if there is a guy that I think can help us in this situation with potentially an undermanned situation, it is Blake. It is. Let's go to Jared. Carter, I've blown my neck out and have 2 weeks off of work. Probably my last super chat for a while. Jared, you super chatted so much to me. Even if you never gave me another super chat, you still me my buddy. I know it sounded very sappy, but it's true. So you take as much time as you want off your super chat duties. And guess what? I'm just going to manifest this that a lot of people are going to step up for you. Because look, my channel is mostly super chat, so I really appreciate that. Let's see. So Bullfrog wants Greg Penn out weeks in. I think you could inevitably see a Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins mix. Swinson, McKinley, Womack. So you want Greg Penn in. Swinson, McKinley, Womack. And they're just going to run on us. I mean, it's just a fact of the matter if that's going to be what we're going to do. I feel a little bit better about this 3-3-5 stack if Swinson and Womack were more so Swinson, if they're a little bit more tweeners. So, like, for instance, I'll tell you this. If we were to do the 3-3-5 thing, the Aiden Huntington ULM transfer becomes very interesting because he actually has some traits that would help us a little bit more in like a 3-3-5 situation, as would a Gabriel Relaford in spots like that. I think Ahmad Bro could shock some people next year as well. But once again, it's still a little bit of a long shot. And look, I hope I am flat on my face wrong about this. I hope we freaking have the second coming of Ronnie Este out there. Welcome, Buster. Yeah, I think we can get there, man. I think we can get there. Now, next thing I would say, happy birthday to Mick. Happy birthday, brother. Good to see you, man. Chat is lit as it always is on a Sunday evening. I do. Oh, Chris, appreciate you. Good to see you. Oh, man. I'm going to be honest. And you always got to be careful when you do this. All right. Is there anything more that Brian Kelly can do to help us with this DT problem? Is there? We'll discuss right after this.
I think joy and happiness and doing things you like is important.
My favorite thing is sports cards. When I'm not on YouTube, I am building my collection. And when I started, I wish there was a sports card strategy show.
He wasn't necessarily going to be a first-round pick before all this Heisman buzz. Now they're talking about him being a top 5 pick.
Paul Hickey and the team at nooffseason.com personally helped build my Jaden Daniels collection, and they're looking to do the same for you. Just check them out on social media or nooffseason.com. Special thanks to Paul Hickey. Once again, I'm a part of the network, the Football Card Quest show that I do as a part of the nooffseason.com network. You can check it out at nooffseason.com. I go live every Tuesday. Now, ultimately, I am very lenient on head coaches when it comes to recruiting. I am. Okay. That's why you have a gazillion position coaches, assistants, recruiting staffers that do this. General managers. You got so many people. And there's so many different things you have to do as a head coach. You're the fundraiser. You're essentially a politician, basically, as a head coach. All right. But Brian Kelly really needs to close on some portal guys over the next couple of weeks. All right. If we're really struggling, we've got to have BK get some of these big guys in. And I think he will. This has always been the case where we've gone panic mode in recruiting, and then a few weeks out in the next couple of days, boom, boom, big commits happen. He's done it quite a few times. Deserix doesn't commit. You still get Denver Harris. Same day. Now, neither were good, but those things tend to happen. I remember the Notre Dame media. They were consistently putting out there, well, LSU is 150 gazillionth in recruiting. Next week, we got 3 top 150 guys. So, after all these defensive line misses, calling in the next week, we'll get at least one commitment. We will. We will. Wes Week still on the team. Did some good things in the spring game. Just go to Chris C. Wants to talk some LSU baseball. Man. God, this weekend felt good. This weekend felt good. It really, really, really did. I wasn't really able to watch the games, but to take 2 of 3, good freaking stuff, Jay Johnson. Good freaking stuff. Okay. He's a good coach. This roster hadn't turned out the way that we wanted it to, and obviously, as a coach, you can always do better. It does sting a little that you're leading 3-0 and then boom, 9 runs. But big picture, you won 2 of 3. And you look historically, LSU, as always, even the 2009 championship team, I think, had like 1 sweep all year. But they won 2 of 3 in like every SEC series that they played. It's hard to sweep a team. It just is. I do want to make one thing pretty clear. Okay. I've always been a big proponent of this, and this would help LSU greatly because they love to pour resources into their baseball program. I could see them finally change the 11.7 scholarship rule. I hope they do. I will. It will never, ever cease to amaze me that rule even exists. 11.7 scholarships for a baseball team. For a basketball team, I can understand that. Volleyball team, I could understand that. But baseball, 11.7 scholarships? And softball, really? Not in that sport, not in those sports, especially baseball, though. I will never, ever, ever get off my high horse about that rule. It is the dumbest freaking rule. It is so dumb. It's unethical, honestly, to me, that rule even exists and you still play 9-inning games. Like, rationally explain that to someone that doesn't follow college baseball. You can't. And for those that don't get it, on your total team, you can only have 11.7 scholarship players. That's it. It's all you're allowed to have. So you can split up a scholarship, but no one can take less than 0.25 of a scholarship unless the rules have changed in the past year. But I do think at some point, we as a society will rationally see that the scholarship limits need to stretch. Okay? And what's even crazier about that when you're recruiting is you could spend millions of hours recruiting the best kid from wherever, and he could still go to the draft. So you are allocating that scholarship to the kid. He goes to the draft, gets drafted. Now you don't have him. So now you got to hurry and replace that production. It's insane whenever you break it down. But once again, that's more of an off-season baseball topic. Shout out LSU baseball, 2 of 3. even though today did not go the way that we wanted it to. Okay. And one guy I just love, and he's just a dude, man. That's Josh Pearson, man. Freaking love him. Like, he's like one of these Sean Ochinko baseball players. Like, not the most iconic player on a baseball team, not the most iconic player on a national championship team, not someone you're going to remember 20 years from now, but he's just good. You wouldn't have won the Natty without him. So LSU baseball 6-4, 14-4. I'll take it. I'll take it. Let's go to Sibs. Carter, defense does not have to win games. The average offense is scoring 35 points a game. Defense is secondary now. And you are right, Sibley. I mean, our offense is still going to be pretty good. I'll also tell you this, all right? It's hard to have a bulletproof team. You know, one kind of underrated thing about the 2019 LSU team is they were very experienced, and they really did not have a bad unit. Now, there were some things in particular defensively they didn't do necessarily well, but they really didn't have a weak unit. I mean, all three levels of that defense was actually pretty good. But most teams have weaknesses. A few years ago, our offensive line wasn't where it needed to be. And now we have an elite offensive line, but now our defensive line isn't where it needs to be. So even with 85 scholarship players, you're not always going to be super strong everywhere on the field. Okay? So I'm with you, Sibley. With the offensive line being as good as it is, Kyron Lacey being as good as he is, we're going to be okay. Let's see. Kimo Macanioli. Hope so. Big number 56, man. I hope he's good. Good to see Dex in here. Lacey Dex in the house. You need your wedding videoed. That's the man to go to. Doug says he heard the Oklahoma number was $1.2 million for Dominic. That's a lot of money. Let's go to Buster. Watch it on Twitter. Sherman Wilson proposed something of Aiden Huntington. I feel pretty good about that. Just putting positive vibes out there. Okay. Now, what's up, Big Six? Here's what you're going to do, because we have to start a little bit later. Next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to answer as many questions as we possibly can. If you super chat, we'll keep it going. I'll go all night, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and that's what I'm going to do. Let's see. Don't forget, tomorrow morning I'll have a new Believe in Saints podcast. Go subscribe to that. It's Believe in Saints. The description is down below. This is a man who is currently under fire. So I want to show you this. I have this Saints helmet, but it's also a Drake helmet. I'm not really a Drake fan. This was sent to me from a listener of the Saints podcast. And I don't know. I don't know. Are y'all more drizzy or are y'all more champagne poppy? Battle's been great though. I am the worst at deciphering lyrics. I'm the worst at it. Okay. What I could tell you though, the memes and the discussion from it has been so good. And I was thinking about this as like a sports example. There's really not any A-list head football coach. Oh my God, my night just got made. Michael B is back. Let's go. Hope your health is getting better. Hope your dad. I know you're dealing with him, man. My thoughts are with you all the time, Michael B. The biggest Justin Jefferson fan on the planet is this man right here. He's got some of the most valuable Justin Jefferson cards. I've given it to him. I appreciate you. We wouldn't be here without you. It's good to have you back, man. And this goes for anyone. If y'all have hiatuses from my channel, just as long as you come back, it's fine. It's all good, man. But it's good to have you back, man. Any topic you want to get to, Michael B, we'll go straight to it. Oh, you want me to do star rankings of the beef? I can call Van to see if he wants to jump on here. That's more up his alley than mine. I couldn't do it. I mean, I've listened to some of it. I'm horrible at deciphering lyrics. I love music. I don't know why. I just cannot decipher lyrics. And that's for any song. Okay. Here's what I'll make a sports analogy though. There are no A-list college football coaches that I could think of that do not like each other. Saban, for as much as people didn't like how good he recruited and how he's done things and how he's handled things, for the most part, everyone respects him. He didn't really have a whole lot of just haters, right? Now, of course, him and Kirby butted heads, but that's just too mentor-teacher, right? Our entertainment is better when elite coaches and elite A-list people do not like each other. Like I retweeted a whole the guy that gave the best breakdown to this beef, the whole history behind it. I tweeted it out earlier. He's a hip hop writer, and Drake is a bit of an asshole. All right, in the minds of many, is an asshole. Good. Brashness works with A-listers. That's why a gazillion people turned into a Tom Brady roast. When the A-listers are punched down and stripped down, in a way, it humanizes them, especially when it's done by other A-listers. Okay? It's just better. What was the biggest beef in college football? The only Saban beef that really was visceral, and that was Saban versus Jimbo. Do you remember when the Saban and Jimbo beef began? It was the biggest story in college football. Now, part of that beef subsided because Deion happened, and Deion became the biggest story in college football, and he still is the biggest story in college football. But if it's one A-lister versus another, it's always great. Okay? It's always great. Now, why do I say that? I'm going to make one women's basketball comment. All right? Because it's not season. We've already discussed the transfers. But that's why I like Don Staley, Kim Mulkey. Okay? I love that these two are such ferocious competitors. I like Don Staley. And obviously I'm biased, but I like Kim Mulkey. I like the fact that there's ice. I like the fact that the two A-list coaches in the SEC This game has already become a thing. It's chippy. It's fun. They don't see eye to eye. It's always best when the elites have a little animosity towards each other. Okay? Bird Magic. A lot of you are a little bit older. You got to live the Bird Magic years. They didn't become friends until that Converse commercial in the late 80s. So all those years, they're at each other's throats. And that's what made the NBA popular. Those guys going at it in the 80s. It was great television. Okay? So, you know, with the Drake and the Kendrick thing, it's gotten to the point where it's like so clear now that these two legitimately hate each other. And we're talking about two of the icons. You're the list, the top most influential rappers of the past decade. I think you couldn't make that list without those two. I don't think you can, honestly. So I enjoy it. And I like it. I really, really, really do. Even if I can't pick up on everything and I have to check Twitter. So Pegasus, I didn't know you're a big lyricist. That's good, man. Michael B has moved from the 318 to Bulldog Country, right in the smack dab of Georgia. I love Georgia. I freaking love Georgia. I do. I think it's a great state. For me to poop on. I'm just kidding. I love the cowardly dog. Not cowardly dog. Triumph. That was my favorite. One of my favorite comedy bits of all time. Okay. Let's go to BT with the hypothetical. Hey, Carter, do you think Keon Coleman scores 3 touchdowns on any LSU number 1 corner from 2006 to 2019? Does Florida State score 45 points on any LSU defense? Oh, now that's a better question. Okay, I'll put it this way. If the best, like, if 2019 LSU played like Florida State at their absolute peak, we would be favored by, Vegas would probably favor us by 13.5, and that's a large number, but that's where we'd probably be favored with the, like, healthy Jordan Travis. And we would probably score on them so quick that, you know, the foot would get off the gas for a little bit, and I would see that game probably be like a final score, the opposite of what happened earlier this year. It'd probably be like 45-24 or something like that. That Florida State offense last year was really, really, really good. Okay. Are they an all-time offense? No. So, like, let's say all these defenses, no, he definitely doesn't score 3 on Peterson. He doesn't score 3 on Sting. So, yeah, I mean, Mo Claiborne's having a good day versus Keon. Because you can't just throw those guys off of you, especially Patrick Peterson. But yeah, you know, I'll text my buddy who covers Florida State, James. He's been on here a bunch. Oh, you don't think Keon gets on Thorold Simon? I look, Thorold Simon was a classmate of mine. God, dude. I like Keon a lot, though. Like, I mean, it's kind of hard not to. I've always just cheered for everything Opelousas anyway. I think Opelousas is such an underrated Louisiana town. I really do believe it. And I know I only passed through, but Opelousas in a 5-minute span, you get Mama's Fried Chicken and Billy's Boudin. Even though the Billy's in Krotz Springs is where it's at. And true story, I actually wore my Billy's Boudin shirt yesterday for a little bit. I got stopped a bunch. They're like, Billy's in Krotz Springs? I was like, yeah. I mean, Billy's in Krotz Springs, and they're freaking Beatles, bro. But there you go. Oh, yeah. I'm supposed to read this aloud. My wife gets mad at me when I don't read this aloud. Please go get your Power Hour LSU merch. My web bill is becoming too expensive. Go to powerhourlsu.com. Please go get you some PHO merch. If you watch me, you know you got to rep the brand, man. You've got to rep the brand. I think I just need to put like a Barstool logo or something like that on there. Or a Tiger Woods new Sunday Red logo. If I did, units would start moving. I got to pay these models. It cost me $15 a month to have my guy here rock the shirt. And same thing. I had to pay both of them. Their package deal, $25 a month. You got a mountain in the background? God, I freaking love doing this. It's crazy. It's crazy. I get to just sit here in front of all these beautiful people on a glorious Sunday night. I rock with the PHL Nation. I do. Celebrating a birthday today. Big happy birthday to you, Mick. We got beanies? You want some beanies? Let's go. I need to make some beanies. Now, oh yeah. We did just give out a big prize. You had some Kenny Chesney tickets recently. Shout out to Ryan, a longtime PHL subscriber, hardworking guy. Always wanted to take his daughter to a concert at AT&T, and he's making it happen. Thanks to you guys on PHL. So I think the show is actually this Saturday. Zach Brown Band opening for Kenny Chesney. So shout out to you, Ryan. He doesn't comment. He's quiet. But you're the man. My man. There's something else I needed to bring up. So I wanted to make sure we announced a winner. But yeah, Keon Coleman, I think his NFL career is going to be interesting. The fantasy guys don't think he's an outside receiver. They think he's just a big slot receiver. I don't know how that's going to work. They need an X. And I can kind of see that. I think people think of like Ladd McConkey is a slot receiver because he's white. And Keon Coleman is an outside receiver because he's huge. But it could be that McConkey is better on the outside than Keon's on the outside. Keon's better on the inside than McConkey is in the slot. All I know is size at the wide receiver position just isn't as important as it once was, right? Like, I think Tank Dell is going to be a really, really good receiver for the Texans for as long as he wants to play. I think Tank Dell is really freaking good at football. It's easier to be a smaller guy. I think Xavier Worthy is going to work for Kansas City because you can motion people now. So all these motions, you can't really touch receivers anymore. I just think it's going to be easier for smaller guys to line up everywhere, even outside of the slot. It was your girlfriend's birthday, May 2nd. That's good. So May 1st is Justin Timberlake Day. May 4th is Star Wars Day. May 5th, a very happy Cinco de Mayo. So now it's story time. We're an hour in. If you guys have questions, fire them in. Fire them in. So, Cinco de Mayo. I actually, at the time, had a Mexican girlfriend. Okay. So, like, I knew, like, early on, it was still, like, the way Americans celebrate Cinco de Mayo is not the same as the way the Mexican culture views Cinco de Mayo. Either way, my girlfriend at the time wanted to go out and party. And I didn't really want to go party, but if I am dating someone Mexican and they say, hey, we're going to celebrate Cinco de Mayo, who am I to say no? So we go to the fine Mexican establishment in Baton Rouge. I think you've heard of it before. Superior Grill. Go to Superior Grill. And it got crazy. It got crazy really quick. And I go to the bar to go get more daiquiris. It was packed. And sitting at the bar was Todd Graves. Todd Graves was sitting there. My best convo I've had with Todd Graves. I'd been around him like at another social setting. I freaking love that man. My goal is to be so big on YouTube or doing whatever that Todd Graves has to give me the sponsorship. He'll look at me the same way he looks at Drewski or Dave Portnoy or whoever, Tiffany Haddish, whoever it may be, that Post Malone. Love me some Todd Graves. Love me some Kings. And that was the last time I ever had a conversation with Todd Graves. Drinking Dax. Superior Grill on Cinco de Mayo. But truth be told, I do remember having the conversation because I like Todd then. At least I think that was Todd. I was pretty gone at that time. I could have talked to someone else about a chicken tender empire at that time. So if Todd wasn't there, I apologize. I just remember having a conversation about chicken tenders, Gaines chicken tenders. But I'm pretty sure it was Todd. But I said, I'm never going out after Cinco de Mayo. The hangover the next day was crazy. At a restaurant. I can understand going to Fred's Free Drinks having a hangover. But after going to a sit-down restaurant, could you imagine, like, how much you have to down at a sit-down restaurant? You're sitting. There's all kinds of salty goodness soaking up all that alcohol. But it sneaks up on you. It sneaks up on you. Last week, I posted this on Twitter. Had an Incredible Hulk for the first time in 7 years. What the hell? Why is that the single most underrated alcoholic mixture? Keon Coleman reminds you of J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good. Also made a pack earlier today. I was watching this guy's videos. Another dream guest of mine is Joey Swole. This is how Joey Swole wears his hats. Okay. And for those that don't know Joey Swole, he's a Twitter account that just points out bad gym etiquette. People send them videos, and he is who I believe should run for political office. I'm a Joey Swole fanatic. You need to do better. Mind your business. Actually, do it better. Because he does a little, he cuts a little bit off his eyebrow. You need to do better. Mind your business. Y'all know Joey Swole? I'm gonna put it all together. I'm just trying to swole up because I'm not swole myself. You need to do better. But he doesn't smile. You need to do better. Mind your business. All right, none of y'all cared for my Joe Swollen, Todd Graves man crush. That's okay. Ooh, we got an Anthony Edwards. We actually have an Anthony Edwards like super fan. His name's Jordan Haddad. I'm cheering for Anthony Edwards. The Wolves are my team. I am always a big fan of cheering for like homegrown teams. And I know the Wolves made like a huge free agent move to go get Rudy Gobert. But I think the Wolves winning the title would be really good on multiple fronts. The first is Ant Edwards, even though he can jump out of a gym, he's only 6'4", right? Like, it's harder to be good at basketball at 6'4" than at 6'8", 6'9". It's so much harder. The second is the Wolves are a homegrown team, right? They didn't just go buy all their players. The third is the Wolves are a smaller market team. The NBA has become such a bigger market thing where it's just all super teams. And like teams like the Nuggets aren't a super team. They're an organically put together group for the most part. Not a whole lot of free agent acquisitions. Guys that they just drafted were their core guys. Same thing with the Wolves. But something else that I think would be a really good reason for the Wolves to win it all. This is a good point right here from Dex. Naz Reid, LSU Tiger, always. Okay. But another good thing is it would support NBA teams thinking outside the box and doing bold things. So, perfect example, the Rudy Gobert trade. All right, so that was a big all-star that they went and got. All right, Rudy Gobert. Obviously, not really a ticket seller, not really a ticket mover. Big men don't move tickets or especially ones that are not perimeter oriented. And he's French, so he's European. So he's not like some huge American star. You wouldn't got him to help your team. But when they went and got him, the Jazz were getting knocked out of the playoffs because teams were taking advantage of Rudy Gobert in matchups, and he's a defensive player of the year. The reason why the Wolves winning would be a good thing is it would tell general managers to think outside the box. What do they always say? Zig while others zag. And yes, I, amongst many, were trying to figure out why they did the Rudy Gobert trade. Turns out it's worked out. Now, the main reason it's worked out is because, well, Ant has taken it to another level. But it would help. I really do think it would help teams to be like, hey, maybe we should go make bold moves. And I think I think it's good. I think it's good for teams to be bold. But I'm definitely supporting Naz Reid, who's NBA Sixth Man of the Year. He's kind of become a star. God, I'm so proud of LSU baseball, man. I keep going back to that. Like, I'm not as much of like a baseball analyst than I am just a fan. So I just look at it, just win. Like it's just find a way to get it done. And I understand it's disappointing that you get to this point and you're up 3-0, but I'm just so happy for them. Yeah, and I didn't even mention Karl Anthony Towns, McDaniels, Connolly. I mean, they have got a fun team, man. But no Kevin Garnett, no Wally Zerbiak, no Latrell Sprewell, no Kevin Love. Those guys walked so Ant Edwards could run. And no Alex Rodriguez. So let's take a few more here. Once again, hanging out with you late. It's PHL. Once again, big shout out to nooffseason.com. So I always check Twitter, like kind of midway through, and I've seen a few of the jokes on here. My wife was watching it. That's why she came in here to tell me Belichick and Kraft took a shot together. I don't care. I think those two hate each other. So I did get this into me that there's some people that watched the Tom Brady roast and they were kind of disappointed how vulgar it was. Okay. I don't necessarily think it's the vulgarity. It's like just the shocking nature of everything. But the truth is, and this is the case with any like long-term dynasty. All right. When you're dealing with all these athletes who are younger, okay? So it's not like these athletes gradually built up their wealth, right? They all became rich at a very young age, and a lot of them got rich in a completely remote part of the country from where they grew up. You know, the one thing that I think people overrate is how many skeletons are in these teams' closets, okay? In particular, football, where you have no less than 200 like people that are on full-time salaries that work in your building. Scouts, all of that. I think 200 is a little bit high, probably like 100 to 125 people. There's going to be I'm not going to say horrible people in those rooms, but there's going to be bad things that happen. Okay. And if you're the New England Patriots, whether it's Deflategate, whether it's Spygate, whether it's Brady Belichick, Belichick Kraft, Kraft Brady, whatever the case may be, there's going to be ugly that happens. A whole lot of it. All right. And I say this because there's a lot of it that's with this current Chiefs like dynasty that's happening right now. So if you tune in to the roast and you heard a bunch of Aaron Hernandez jokes, or you heard, a bunch of jokes about Alex Guerrero, Tom Brady's trainer, that were very raunchy. That's how a lot of professional sports dynasties are. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of fame. Ironically, when you win and you continue that success, there's a lot more negative than there is positive, right? Like, when you fail, the fail just hurts that much more. Like, one guy who's not going to be in the Hall of Fame but has made a lot of money and will always be known as a Super Bowl winner and just an overall good player is Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco has had a wonderful career. You're never going to say he was great. You're never going to say he was bad. He was, in fact, very good. Joe Flacco could probably walk inside the Mall of Louisiana and get stopped maybe once. All right. Dan Marino's probably getting stopped 15, 20 times. Tom Brady's getting stopped everywhere else. Everywhere he turns, he's going to get stopped. So when you reach the Mahomes, Brady, Peyton Manning tier, it's hard, man. It is hard to maintain that level of success. It is so hard. And they're skeletons. there just is, right? So I'm sure that there was like some Patriot fans that were tuning in. They're like, man, these are a lot of Robert Kraft jokes about this. These are a lot of jokes about that. If you can't handle it, don't do it. Trust me. Netflix paid Brady at least, I would guess at least, it was no less than $1 million. No less than $1 million. I would guess Brady, if I were to guess what Brady made for this roast, I would guess $5 million. That's where I would guess it. The licensing, the jokes, the personal attacks. Look, if you get peppered with jokes as bad as they apparently were tonight, it's going to cause it. Like 2 or 3 days from now, there's only so many jokes that they can make about your wife, to where you're just like, oh God. I would guess Brady made $5 million off that roast tonight. Because if I was Brady's agent, I would say, hey, Fox is paying us $375 million to come talk about football. My client could do that. My client can hop on a plane, study the opponents and the teams, and talk about football for 3 hours, no problem. You want me to sit up, sell in an arena, be the center of a comedy festival, which it was? Brady probably made $5 million just sitting up there tonight. There's just not many, there's not many A-listers left to roast anyway. What a day. What a day. Whew. God. Y'all, I'm just gonna let this go. I'm gonna let this one rip. I'm gonna let it rip. I'm gonna let it go from my soul. We're reaching graduation season. Okay. The only graduation I care about is Kanye. Because that's an actual graduation that gets me excited. Y'all, I don't care to go to a ceremony. For anyone. This could be my own child, graduating valedictorian. There's no need to do a celebration that it lasts this long. Diploma, rub-a-dub-dub, let's get the hell out. It's packed. No one cares. No one cares that you got Tony Dungy for $90K to come speak to us about reaching for our dreams. No one cares. It's been done. I can watch on YouTube. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. But no. We gotta go sit in the blistering heat. Gotta sit in the blistering heat. For what? So I got into it earlier with my wife. She said, hey, Ginkin, her cousin, graduation on Friday. Oh, okay. And then she said, it's in so-and-so. And I was like, wait, I got to drive an hour? Sit in the heat? But for your cousin? And drive back? And then go back out and have a dinner? What? So she was like, hey, we're doing a fish fry after. You can go to the graduation, go to the fish fry. I was like, no, I'll go to the fish fry. That's fine. Graduation. I understand it's a big deal. It's a big celebration. People coming in from all around. Just hand out the diplomas. I don't care if you hire a speaker for $90K. 10-minute speech max. Hand out the diplomas. Let Aunt Nene see her baby boo walk across the stage. 2 seconds of fame. Move on. I cannot stand. I didn't walk for LSU graduation. I think my mom still despises me for that. I just couldn't do it. I got Colorado. All right, so Brian knows this. I did a Shedeur Sanders video on the NFL channel. Okay. And one thing I've learned is to never do a Shedeur Sanders video ever again, because I don't think this is, I'm going crazy, but there are reputable draft sites that have him as the number 1 draft quarterback for next year. And even aside him calling a former teammate mid, I don't care about the watch thing. I don't care about any of that. And I understand his offensive line is truly, truly, truly hot dog water. But Shedeur Sanders took 3 sacks in every single game that he played. He took 4 sacks in all but 2 games. 4 sacks in every game he played outside of 2. And in those 2 games, 3 sacks. Well, Carter, it's because his offensive line sucks. True. That's a good 60 to 70% of it. But the thing that people get wrong about sack discourse is sack avoidance is also important. And there are times when he could have thrown the football away, but he would whirling Derbyshire. And we talked about this earlier. like going into the NFL, there's a stat called pressure to sack rate, and it's been relatively predictive of who the best quarterbacks are. So Patrick Mahomes had a good pressure to sack rate. Justin Herbert had a good pressure to sack rate. Joe Burrow didn't. But when you actually break down a lot of Joe Burrow's sacks, it was kind of what we talked about earlier. None of those were disastrous sacks. He wouldn't take like a 50-yard loss, if that makes sense. Same thing is true with Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels took way too many sacks in 2022. Way too many. But they were a lot of 2 or 3 yard sacks. One of my favorite stats when people would get on Jaden for all the sacks he took. Well, Auburn took 14 fewer sacks than LSU did in 2022, but they had more sack yardage than we did. The thing about Shedeur Sanders sacks is they are disasters. It's a lot of 10 to 12-yard sacks, which sucks. Imagine a holding penalty, but you lose the down. That's essentially what it is. So, yeah, his offensive line sucks. But you can't have any conversations with Colorado fans. Or, I don't even call them Colorado fans. I call them Deion fans. Can't do it. They call you a hater. They call you don't know what you're talking about. And I just don't see an NFL quarterback right now with Shedeur Sanders. I would probably go Carson Beck. I still think Caden Salter is interesting. I still think he's interesting. Good leader, good tools. Still kind of hesitant. I'm not a big fan of this draft class. I know a lot of people aren't. But yeah, I'm a big Denbrock guy, as many of you know. Riley Leonard's going to get Denbrock's coaching at Notre Dame. Or his first couple of years, he was at Duke. And Duke's had good players go to the NFL. Had a really good offensive lineman last year, Graham Barton. But I think Riley Leonard's going to ball out. I think so. But I don't see it in Shedeur Sanders. I don't. Like, intermediate accuracy is actually pretty good. It's really, really, really good. Playmaking ability, really good. He relies on it a little too much, but really good. But arm strength is kind of like good to great. I think he's going to be very good this year because he is very talented and he's got really good receivers. But it's insane. Yeah, we had to start late tonight. Long story short. And I'm about to wrap this thing up. So if you want to see the video that's got a bunch of people pissed off, it's this one. You know a good way to describe Shedeur, okay? It's some of the issues that Garrett Nussmeier had when he first started playing at LSU. So the one thing I like about Shedeur is he doesn't throw picks. So 3 interceptions, obviously Garrett Nussmeier's had an interception issue. But one thing that both of them struggled with, and Garrett's gotten way better at, is the improvisational stuff, okay? It's not always worth it to extend a play. It's not. It really, really, really isn't. And you got to be careful when you're trying to extend stuff. Sometimes it's just not going to work. It's just not. So that'll just about do it for me. Big shout out to our top super chatter of the night. It is Jay Red. He said he's blown his neck out. He's got to take 2 weeks off. I'm definitely going to be sending you something, Jay Red. And Grant Yenny popping back. Always love Grant. He did send me a fun Liverpool thing. All right, y'all. We'll talk to you soon. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. I'll be back on with Blake tomorrow. I'll be back live on the channel here on Tuesday. And tonight we are doing it's like this chicken rice dish that my wife made. Let's go.